Picture a torchlit courtyard at midnight, its cobblestones slick with freezing rain. The town crier's bell tolls once, twice, and a rag-bound prisoner is dragged from a dungeon so foul that rats refuse to nest there. He knows, as everyone watching knows, that what awaits him tonight will echo through children's nightmares for generations. Welcome to the grisly gallery of medieval justice, where creative cruelty met the letter of the law, and an unlucky few learned how inventive the human mind can be when pain is the currency of order. If you're brave enough to stay, I'll guide you through 10 punishments so harrowing they make modern horror films feel like nursery rhymes. Before we descend, do your own small mercy. Tap like and subscribe, because you won't want to miss the next time we pry open history's darkest cell door. Viewer discretion is advised. 10th on our descent is the pillory in stocks, seemingly mild until you realize how medieval crowds weaponized humiliation. In London's Cheapside, bakers who sold underweight loaves were clamped by the neck and wrists in oak frames so tight they could neither wipe spit from their faces nor shoo flies from their eyes. Public shaming mutated into violence. Butchers pelted with rotten offal, alleged witches smeared with animal dung, and one luckless debtor in 1314 killed when townsfolk pounded his ribs with frozen turnips. The sentence could last days. Exposure alone brought fever or frostbite. Some collapsed, unconscious, their skin blistered by sun or cracked by winter wind, proving that mockery, when sanctioned by law, can be lethally efficient. 9th, the heretic's fork, a slender, two-pronged iron rod strapped between sternum and throat. The points were dull enough not to puncture, but sharp enough to shred if the victim's head nodded even an inch. Pope Innocent III's inquisitors favored it for suspected cathars. Confession meant relaxing the neck, which meant self-impalement. One Dominican record from Toulouse in 1242 notes a woman who stayed awake 3 nights straight, eyelids twitching like moth wings before her muscles finally betrayed her. The fork pierced flesh, silenced her last prayer, and the scribe concluded the entry with chilling satisfaction. Her soul, at last, could no longer lie. 8th comes the Spanish donkey, or wooden horse. Authorities in Aragon built triangular beams so narrow they sliced like a sword edge. Prisoners, often deserters or adulterers, were forced astride, ankles weighted with cannonballs. Gravity did the carving, splitting groin tissue until bone pressed visible against skin. In Barcelona, records from 1487 describe guards sprinkling salt on the wounds to heighten agony, as victims begged to be thrown to the gallows instead. When soldiers marched past the square, the sight served as visceral recruitment propaganda. Stay loyal or saddle up on pine and iron. 7th lurks the Judas cradle, reportedly deployed by the Papal States Constables. Picture a pyramid of polished wood, its apex a handspan wide, gleaming with lamp oil to reduce friction and prolong life. The condemned, naked save for a rope harness, was hoisted, then slowly lowered, until that point burrowed into rectum or other body parts. Ligatures controlled depth. Interrogators could pause, pose a question, then crank the rope another notch. An Urbino court ledger from 1503 details a blacksmith accused of forging false coins who endured 36 hours before septic shock carried him off. Jurists noted the edifying effect on his neighbors, who promptly turned into additional counterfeiters. 6th is a duet of devices made specifically for women deemed immoral: the breast ripper and the pear of anguish. The ripper, a set of iron claws heated red hot, was clamped to breast tissue and torn away with a single jerk, as happened to the alleged poisoner Kunigunde of Bavaria in 1308. The pear resembled a bulb divided into 4 metal petals. Inserted orally for liars, vaginally for adulteresses, or rectally for male sodomites, its screw handle spread the petals until mucous membranes ruptured. French parliamentarian logs from 1599 describe physicians fainting at the sight of shredded tongues, while magistrates calmly questioned the next prisoner in line. 5th towers the rack, the judiciary's favorite lie detector. First mentioned in England under Edward I, it became infamous in the Tower of London, where Sir Nicholas Owen, the Jesuit responsible for hiding Catholic priests, was stretched in 1606. Hemp ropes looped around wrists and ankles, rollers wheeled by executioners lengthened the body until shoulders dislocated with muffled pops and rib cartilage tore loose. Shrieks rose to such a pitch that wardens stuffed the portcullis with hay to muffle them for tourists gawking from the wharf. Some prisoners emerged irreparably crippled, their arms hanging inches longer, and their spines bowed like sickle handles, yet still alive to sign coerced confessions. Fourth boils, literally. Henry VIII's 1531 statute made poisoning a form of petty treason and mandated death by scalding. The condemned was chained inside a cauldron as cold water filled around their ankles. Then came the fire. As bubbles formed, skin blistered, sloughed off, and floated like pale petals. Chronicler Edward Hall describes Richard Roos, a cook who tampered with the Bishop of Rochester's pottage, screaming like an ox for 2 hours in Smithfield Market. The stench of cooked flesh clung to spectators' cloaks, and London butchers complained customers lost their appetite for meat for weeks afterward. Third is the breaking wheel, St. Catherine's namesake. Carpenters fortified wagon wheels with iron studs. The victim was lashed spread eagle across the spokes. An executioner wielding a sledgehammer shattered limb after limb, working from ankles upward so the prisoner stayed conscious. Bones protruded, yet blood loss remained slow. The mangled body was then threaded through the wheel's rim and hoisted atop a pole, where crows and weather finished the sentence. In the Holy Roman Empire, this punishment was so prevalent that 16th century road maps marked Raids Hills, wheel mounds where travelers might glimpse the sun-bleached remains of highwaymen spinning gently in alpine wind. Second, in sheer spectacle, stands hanging, drawing, and quartering, codified under Edward III for high treason. Take William Wallace in 1305. First, he was hanged, but cut down, still breathing. Next, genitals sliced off and burned before his eyes, entrails pulled out and flung into a brazier. Finally, beheading and quartering, each limb dispatched to hostile towns as grisly billboards of royal wrath. Scribal notes reveal that taverns near Smithfield raised prices on ale whenever a traitor's sentence loomed. Thirst for gore apparently parched many throats. The method persisted into 1782, when spy David Tyree's torso, nailed for days to Portsmouth dockyard gates, made even hardened sailors retch. First, crowning this macabre hierarchy, is impalement, perfected by Vlad III Dracula of Wallachia. Reports from Saxon merchants in 1460 speak of forests of spears outside Targoviste, each skewering an Ottoman soldier or political rival like grotesque fruit. A sharpened stake, ends greased, was forced through the victim's pelvis. Gravity did the rest as organs slid downward over hours or days until the point burst through shoulder or throat. Envoys from Hungary counted bodies fanning in concentric circles, their moans harmonizing like a diseased choir. When Sultan Mehmed II's scouts beheld 20,000 carcasses ripening in summer heat, they reportedly gagged behind silk sleeves and urged immediate retreat. In this chilling calculus, terror alone became a weapon more powerful than any battalion. What threads these punishments together is not merely brutality, but their public pedagogy. Pain as theater, fear as governance. Medieval rulers understood that a single shriek could echo louder than 1,000 decrees, and a corpse displayed at a crossroads might police the living better than any patrol. The Middle Ages have long turned to dust, yet echoes of iron hinges, crackling skin, and muffled prayers still seem to vibrate beneath castle stones. Perhaps the most unsettling truth: every device you've heard tonight was engineered, refined even, by ordinary artisans, lawmakers, and neighbors who kissed their children goodnight before tightening the next rope. And so, as you extinguish your bedside lamp, remember that the most dreadful instruments of torture were forged not in demon realms but in familiar workshops lit by the same dawn that greets us all. Thanks for venturing into history's darkest corridors with me. If your heart beats steady enough, join us next time for another chapter of Unfortunate Truths, but only if you've already subscribed. After all, curiosity can be a dangerous thing to satisfy alone.